"You done what?" shouts an aging man confined to a hover chair as he slams his fist down at the desk he is sat at. He continues to shout at a military uniformed man who is sat at the other side of the desk. "I give the orders round here, General," he shouts. The General replies, "But, Mr. President, sir, our jeeps were destroyed. It is protocol to send a—" The President interrupts him, speaking through gritted teeth. "I don't care if you think someone in that wretched city destroyed our Dejas jeeps. You don't just send a search and destroy without my say-so." The General tries to reply. "I'm sorry, sir, but I—" He is interrupted again by the President. "No buts! Now get out of here and call those units back." The General gulps and says, well, sir, we can't." The President places his hands flat on the table and stares into the General's eyes. The General gulps again and nervously says, "You see, we're having communication problems. We think it's due to bad—" The President shouts, "Shut up! Shut up! I don't want to know!" The President leans back and shakes his head and shouts at the man, "Go on! Get out of my sight! I'll handle this!" The door behind the General automatically slides open. The General then rises to his feet and bows to the President, then leaves. The President shakes his head again. Stood next to the President, a black-suited, tall, tanned man with dark-dyed hair and a short beard and glasses walks around the desk and sits on the chair the General was sat on. He then takes his glasses off and begins to clean them. He then speaks to the President. "Well, sir, we could send some land darts to them with a message to return to base. We should be able to pick up their pulse readings so we know what direction they are heading." Goes the President. He looks at the screen on his desk for a moment and shakes his head again. The President says, "I tell you what, Hakoto, I can't believe that those city rats destroyed 2 of my jeeps." Hakoto shrugs his shoulders and raises his hands to show he's oblivious to how to. The President looks to his right out of the large glass walls, overlooking a view of the desert from a high, then says, "I know some form of society had formed in that desolate place, but not one powerful enough or crazy enough to attack our military hardware." Hakoto places his glasses on and puts his elbows on the chair armrests and holds his fingertips together and says to the President, "Well, sir, how do you want to handle this? Do we call back the search and destroy party?" The President, still looking out the window towards the desert, replies, "No. We'll go with your idea. Send out a few land darts to catch up. Hopefully they reach the units before they flatten the whole city, and give them new orders to get into the city and look for any evidence of organised society, kill any resistance, but capture as many as they can for life for interrogation and experimentation. You never know, we might find something." Hakoto, with his legs crossed and fingertips pressed together, nods his head in agreement. The President looks at the Vice President Hakoto and asks him, "How's your interrogation going anyway? Has the alien given us any more information about his visions?" Hakoto looks down at his knee and makes a motion as if brushing something off of his knee, then replies, "No. Our psychics and scientists are running numerous tests on him, but we have to be careful not to overdo it. He is very old and frail now, and even though we can keep him going on life support machines, I'm not too sure how much more he can take." The President looks back out of the glass wall and towards the desert again and says, "I'm surprised he's still alive at all." Hakoto looks down to the table, holding his fingertips together again, and says as nodding his head, He is very strong-willed. It is like he believes there is some form of hope or something." The President leans back in his hover chair and looks at a hollow screen on his desk and says, "Well, maybe we should pay our alien friend a visit. What do you think?" Hakoto nods his head in agreement and says, "Yes, sure, why not, Mr. President?" We see the President going along a corridor in his hover chair, followed by Hakoto, who is walking on foot. Once people see the President, they move out of his way and bow to him as he passes. The corridors and rooms the President passes through are very brightly lit, and all the doors automatically open as he approaches. They pass a wall of tall windows, and a barren desert can be seen to stretch out as far as the eye can see. The sun is setting behind the mountains, and beams of light shimmer and reflect off the huge domed roof of the installation. The building and the President Hakoto are walking through is a very tall skyscraper, and it towers upwards in the centre of the domed complex high above its glass canopy. The glass dome does not reach the ground, but rests on huge concrete walls of the circular complex, and 12 triangular fortifications protrude outwards from the circular wall all around it towards the desert. The President and Hakoto get to an elevator and the door slides open. They both enter and Hakoto presses his hands on the screen on the wall. The doors close and the elevator slightly jolts. The President and Hakoto stare straight ahead for a moment as the elevator descends at great speed. Then the elevator slightly lifts and jolts again, and the doors slide open. Two men in lab coats are stood ready to welcome the President. "Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to see you again," says one of the scientists. Two scientists make way for the President as he passes between them. The second scientist speaks to the President. "Sir, I regret to remind you that you're going to have to leave your hover chair behind if you wish to go any further. Some of our equipment and experiments are very vulnerable to magnetic fields it creates." Another scientist brings along a high-tech wheelchair, and the President straightens his shirt and collar, and Hakoto helps him trade chairs. Hakoto lifts the President up as he holds on to him. You can tell the President is uncomfortable with this, but unfortunately it is necessary. Once the President is firmly and comfortably in the wheelchair, the group then make their way through the laboratory, Hakoto pushing the President in the wheelchair. The place is extremely brightly lit, with robotic machines doing tasks at workstations and scientists walking around in different protective clothing. Scientists are looking at the screens and peering through microscopes and other various devices. They come to a door, and one of the scientists runs a swipe card through the electronic lock. The door slides open, and a large multi-leveled room can be seen inside. The group enter the room. They enter the room on the top platform of the lab. To their left, a long railing can be seen going along the length of the platform, and to their right, people sat at workstations and machines with large screens. Over the railing is a drop to the lab below. People are working at workstations and computers. Some are wearing biohazard suits and walking back and forth to a giant chrome ring vertically attached to the wall of metal and wires and screens. The ring is a mass of clamps and pipes, and clamped to this giant ring is a pale, lightly breathing being. The being is Hoto, the alien teacher from the desert commune. He seems almost lifeless as he hangs up in the ring in a crucifix position. His arms and legs are concealed in large chrome clamps, his head is held in a kind of helmet-like clamp, and his spine has wires and pipes protruding from them, linking him up to computers, screens and workstations and helmets of psychics, who are sat at the end of the lab in a room behind a glass screen. "So, do you have anything new for us, Professor?" says Hakoto. The scientist replies, "Well, we believe that the images of the alien weaponry we extracted from the alien's mind are in fact contents of a large Soltarian warship." The President questions the scientists. Memories of a past battle?" The other scientist reassures the President. "Yes, it seems so. Nothing to worry about. The ship has more likely been destroyed long ago." Hakoto asks another question. "What about the ship we are looking for? Any information on that?" The scientist shakes his head and says, "We haven't been able to locate that yet, sir. We are still checking all frequencies on the alien." The President, looking over the lab, blurts out, "What about the key? Can't those bloody psychics find it?" The second scientist starts to speak. "Well, the other scientist interrupts, "They can't seem to locate it either, sir." The scientist then makes eye contact with Hakoto, and Hakoto slightly smiles. The President taps his hand on the arm of the wheelchair as he looks around the lab and says, "All that we have been through to get where we are today, all this power, all this technology, and we still can't bloody find what we're looking for. Well, at least the washaway satellite still works perfectly." A third scientist approaches the group and speaks. "Sir, our psychics believe they have tapped into a part of Hoto's mind that showed the location of the key. Images will be projected on the monitors soon." Hakoto and the first scientist trade glances. Then, the group walk to the edge of the railing and stare at the large screens either side of Hoto and the giant ring he is clamped in. Hoto's eyes begin to roll as the screens begin to flicker. An image on the screen is of the old desert commune, then an image of Hoto giving Michael the medallion. Hoto's head violently twitches and his eyes tighten shut as they roll widely. Hakoto looks down to his right and can see the psychics wearing a headset sat in a room behind the glass screens. "Come on, where is the key?" says the President to himself as he rubs his chin. An image flicks on the screen. It's the medallion Hoto gave Michael. "Why so much focus on this image? They said it was the location of his mind associated with the key," says the first scientist. "Well, it may be a key, but that's a Soltarian symbol," snaps the President. Then a flash of a cylindrical object appears for a split second, then a small golden pyramid. One of the scientists shout, "That was it! That was it!" Then an image of Michael as a young adult flashes up, and an image of the city, then an image of the city commune. "Damn! That looks like the city the search and destroy is heading for," says Hakoto. The President leans forward in his wheelchair and says, "Why is he trying to withhold what's in the city? Could the key be in the city?" Hoto begins to jerk his head again and breathe deeper. Everyone is staring intensely at the images on the screen and doesn't notice. Then suddenly the screen goes blue and shows an image of the crystal realm, the blue landscape Hoto used to teach your children in. "Huh? What is this?" says the President. The President lifts himself off, partially off of his wheelchair, holding onto the railing. Hokoto rushes to aid him, but the president brushes him off, and the president shouts at Hoto, "You tell me where the ship is! Where's the key?" The psychics scream then, and rip their headsets off, holding their heads in pain. Machines and computers begin to beep warnings and alarms. Then an image of Hoto's face morphs on the screen and monitors. Then the images on the screen of Hoto's face glows and his eyes open wide, and lightning appears to erupt from the ground and sky behind his face. Then his voice can be heard shouting through the speakers, "Never! Never!" Lights begin to flicker and flash in the lab. The workstation machines begin to spark, and as alarms go haywire, the scientists are running around chaotically, some of them spraying machines with fire extinguishers. The president, still holding himself up on the railing, is in a rage. His skin seems to be slightly turning to scales, his eyes going red. He balances his body weight on one arm and pulls out a silver handgun and points it at Hoto. "Sir, no!" shouts Hokoto. "Damn you, Soltarian!" screams the president. Bang! Bang! The president fires 2 shots. One ricochets off the helmet-like device Hoto's head is clamped in, but one stops in mid-air in front of Hoto's face, spinning as it hovers. Hoto's eyes then open, and a light shines on his forehead as he frowns and grits his teeth. The bullet then turns around and flies straight through the president's head. The president falls back in his wheelchair, his body shaking spasmodically, his skin now back to normal human form. Hoto screams and his body glows intensely. As his screams engulfs the laboratory through the speakers, his body is turned into pure light. Bang! Kaboom! The sparks and explosions get more intense and fire breaks out. The scientists make their way to the exits. So does Hokoto, carrying the president on his shoulder. Hoto seems to be engulfed in a ball of light as chaos and small explosions take place all around him. Then we see a view from outside the giant dome and its tower. The installation's power flickers for a moment, turning out all the lights for a split second.